All right, let's talk about Justin Herbert and what went wrong here with the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, the overall performance was horrible. The numbers here for Justin Herbert are horrible in this game. He ended today with just 81 yards, no touchdowns, one interception. Also got banged up towards the end of it. So what were the issues? Well, first, let's start off with this, which is, I feel like anytime you bring up issues with the Chargers supporting cast, you get a subset of people that are going to say like, oh, it's always someone else's fault. Well, sometimes it is someone else's fault. Here, you see the route that Herbert's going to want to look towards in a one-on-one matchup. This is Oronde Gadsden II, kind of this tight end who's really emerged for the Chargers as a key player. They're running their offense through him on this 3rd down and 3. There's going to be a bit of a, sort of a pick play to try and get him open. The route you see is the one that he is running. Herbert's going to take the snap, and I wouldn't say this is poorly executed necessarily by the Chargers. There is a little bit of an opportunity if this can, if they can make this work. However, watch Montrack Brown, the corner, really does a good job of finishing that play, knocks it away, and then on 3rd and 3, they're not able to convert and get the first down. So that is an aspect of this, is that just, the Chargers weren't winning on the outside and the Jaguars were. And when you're not getting guys to win in these situations, and maybe it's Herbert's fault, if you want to say he should have thrown the ball earlier, okay. But ultimately, that is a big factor in all of this. Like, this play is a good example. This sequence really is a good example of, I think, what went wrong in this game. So first, you see that they're kind of set up as though maybe they're going to run the ball, which, hey, 1st down and 10 at your own 21, prime opportunity to just run the ball, get 4 yards, start off on the right foot, right? But because of that, the Chargers, how they're built, how their team is built, they want to run the ball, and then run play action. So even in games when, the offense isn't doing great, the rushing offense isn't doing great, they still want to run it so they can get these play action passes, get guys out of position and throw down the field. Well, here you see Justin Herbert's going to take the snap. He looks down the field and he doesn't love what he sees. And I think you could, again, if you want to blame Herbert, I know some people do, I think the biggest argument is, should he be threading the needle a bit more, putting the ball, being more willing to put the ball in harm's way sometimes, perhaps. Here, though, again, everyone's making the excuse of, well, injured offensive linemen. And listen, I'm not saying that's not a factor. That's a factor, and we'll talk about that. But that's not the only way that sacks can happen. This play, they had time to make the play work. Herbert now holds onto the ball for too long, ends up taking a sack. Not a horrible sack. They only lose 4 yards, but still a play that, it's just not working at every level, right? So, okay, first play doesn't work, but it's just 1st down. Sure, you would have loved to gain 4 yards instead of lose 4 yards. But okay, now they're on a 2nd and 14, and they're just going to play it safe here. Let's go with a halfback screen. Let's just try and gain another, hey, hopefully we'll get the 14 yards and can get the 1st down, but realistically gain 7 yards or so, set up a convertible 3rd down. That's kind of the mindset here. Pay attention to the blocks I have on the screen, though. You see the player who's covering the halfback, the left guard is ultimately going to have to get up to block him. Watch when Herbert takes a snap, so it's Zion Johnson who's supposed to get up there, but he's just so slow in getting out of the gate here. There's just no way for this play to work. As you see, linebacker makes a great play on the ball carrier. Give him credit, right? And give the Jaguars defense credit for a lot of these plays for sure. That was Devin Lloyd who made the play. But also, okay, now it's 3rd down and 19. They just have to, run the ball, play field position, and punt the ball away. So that just kills the possession. Also this, sometimes they need to, I think the Chargers sometimes need to stop overthinking this stuff a little bit. You have Zion Johnson who's it's again, a play action. And quite frankly, these play actions weren't working. This is a fake jet sweep, which I guess is slightly different than a play action, but the same idea. So you see, you run the fake jet sweep, so you leave the edge rusher blocked initially off the edge. Your guard is supposed to then get over and get in position. And again, I'm not trying to fully pick on Zion Johnson. I think he's a fine player, but when this is just not his game, moving him around like this. He's much better in just being able to pass block traditionally. And when you have offensive linemen that maybe aren't elite, sometimes you have to make things easier on them. Herbert has to just dirt this ball. There's nowhere to go with it anyway. So, again, for a quarterback, this is a good play from Justin Herbert, but the best play was throwing the ball into the ground because there's nothing available. So yes, there are instances where for a quarterback, there is nothing you could do. That is a thing that happens. I think, again, I kind of touched on this earlier. Could you maybe try and put some blame on him on certain aspects of this play? I think yes. Let's take a look at this play, which was a huge play in the game. This is still very much a ball game at this point. It's an 8-point game in the 2nd quarter. If you can it's 4th and 7. They're going for it. If you can just come away with points here, make it a 5-point game, it feels completely different, right? One score will give you the lead. The issue is you have to convert a 4th and 7, and conversions have been hard to come by in this game. So you see the Jaguars are going to play man coverage. That's an issue. Is early on, I feel like guys were getting open consistently for the Chargers. Guys were winning their one-on-one matchups. That's not really happening here. Herbert's going to take the snap, and there are 2 issues. So first, it's actually, I don't believe this is a pure blitz, but what's happening is since the halfback started off blocking, you had a Jaguars player fake as though he's rushing the passer. So 4-man rush that kind of looks like a 5-man rush. And you see, again, the tackles, it is an issue, right? Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that's not a problem or not a part of this. It absolutely is. This is, Trey Pipkins, the right tackle, who, again, if we're using PFF grades out of the guys who got the most snaps at their position, he had the highest grade among offensive linemen, but still, he's getting beat badly here. Again, Jaguars can rush the passer well. For Herbert, though, I think the criticism you say is like, hey, the offensive line's having an issue. Maybe just take the snap, throw one up, give your receiver a chance, right? Throw it up to someone who you think can make a jump ball. Maybe it doesn't work, but it is 4th and 7. I can see that logic. He wasn't blindsided here. It was the right tackle who lost. So, he could have now just thrown one up. Instead, he kind of tries to get outside the pocket, but waits too long, takes a bad hit. That's a collision right there. Ultimately, they do not convert. There was a flag anyway, so that's not good. On top of it, ultimately, they do not convert and have to, turn the ball over on downs. And, that certainly impacted things. The Jaguars weren't able to score on their ensuing possession, but it's just, you could have had points. And then, of course, like this play, which, again, I'm willing to excuse a lot of the Herbert issues. I just am. I am someone who kind of, I think, doesn't view football as a quarterback sport. I think it's a team sport. I think the quarterback is the most important position on that team sport, but I do think that, you watch, I think you have to use nuance sometimes when looking at this stuff, and I think a game like this, there is a lot of nuance behind what went wrong for the Chargers. It's not just Herbert sucks, but here, this was a bad play. You have, it's Quentin Johnston, who's going to run a deep route, kind of trying to push the safety further deep. You didn't have McConkey going more over the middle. Hopefully that can get open. Watch. Justin Herbert runs the play action, and this doesn't really work as designed, but honestly, that was really well pass protected by the Chargers offensive line, so eventually McConkey runs a good enough route. He's able to get open. So, okay, again, play action not really fooling Jacksonville in this game, but they still were able to get someone open regardless. You have this opportunity to get a big chunk play. It's a blowout. You're down 22 points. You need a big chunk play here, and this throw just gets away from Herbert. And again, they're not winning the game if he makes that throw, but it's a bad throw, and that added some issues. So, yeah, listen, I think that these issues are worse than just, if Herbert has a bad game and you lose, okay, I'm fine with that. That was kind of the playoff game, as Herbert just had a bad game and they lost. You can live with those kind of losses because your quarterback's not going to play 17 great games, right? I think what's kind of more concerning, if I'm a Chargers fan, is these were bigger issues than that. There were guys not getting open. They're not blocking. And listen, for the Chargers, the playoffs is still very much a question mark at this point. You have to win probably 3 games to get in. Now, the good news is you play the Raiders, which that feels like a win. You play the Cowboys and Texans. Those are 2 winnable games. You play the Broncos on the last game of the season. They could be resting starters. And you play the Chiefs, who you have beaten already this season. There's also the Eagles. That feels like it could be tough. But ultimately, they just have to, I think, simplify the offense. That's kind of my biggest point right here with the Chargers, is I think they're just trying to do too much, which it's not like they're being crazy here. It's a pretty simple offense as is, but I really think just run the ball. Don't try to do too many of these play actions, or if you do, just, I think, we have to do a better job of establishing the run, but of course they can't run the ball, so it's hard to do that. So it's tough all around. I think it really does in many ways come down to blocking. The receivers aren't getting open without help. It's a bit of an issue, but also Jacksonville plays good defense, so let's not freak out just yet, but, not hitting the panic button, but maybe aware of where the panic button is right now is what I think. But yeah, that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.